Welcome to Chasing Epiphanies, where knowledge is power and the pursuit of wisdom is celebrated for its own sake. My name is Marco, and this is the review of the Black Goat Motorcycle Club. Today's review is a YouTuber edition, as the Black Goat Motorcycle Club was written by Jason Murphy, otherwise known for hosting such shows as The Modern Rogue and some Let's Plays and Raid Select. He's a man who wears his love for all things morbid on his sleeve, while administering a risky dose of dark humor wherever he goes. The Black Goat Motorcycle Club very much lives up to the expectations I had going in, perhaps even going beyond them in terms of sheer intensity. Our story is centered on a small town hospital in the heart of the Arizona desert, where a brutal gang of bikers have arrived to terrorize the staff. That's a pretty bad situation, and also, they are, werewolves. Seems this bad situation has become even more dire. And also, these werewolves can infect you with a mere claw scratch. We've officially gone from dire to absolutely nightmarish. However, little do these bikers know that the people they've come across have their own unresolved issues that might just explode at any moment. Some characters include Hank, a doctor who for all intents and purposes is a likable and competent man, yet he carries a sense of inadequacy with him, being stuck in a small town hospital in spite of his high education. There's also Whitey, the shotgun-toting redneck neighbor with a shady past. And Nurse Boulay, nicknamed Bullet, just to make it that obvious that she's the toughest nails badass of the group. If you had any doubts about her willingness to get rough with people, we're practically introduced to Bullet while she's thinking of punching Ardero, the head nurse, simply for being kinda demeaning to her. Speaking of head nurse Ardero, of all the characters she's one that could have been handled a bit better if you ask me. We are told, again and again, that Ardero is this evil harpy of a woman, but when it comes to actually showing that side of her, it feels a bit lacking. The story takes place over one day and is fairly fast-paced, so we only really see tiny snippets of how Ardero treats everyone before the Black Goats arrive. So, if anything, I ended up pitying her through most of the book instead, considering how much the werewolves put her through while getting almost zero sympathy. And speaking of the werewolves, they leave little to the imagination. What is it exactly that makes werewolves scary? I'd like to think that what makes the concept of werewolves frightening is that they're ultimately still human, they just so happen to have lost all of their inhibitions. The human mask has fallen off, so to speak. The Black Goat Motorcycle Club, however, decides to take a huge stinking dump in the face of subtlety, going all the way in portraying them as rabid animals who just so happen to be able to talk and ride bikes like humans do. It's a high-octane ride into hell that doesn't wait around to get into the action and violence, and I do emphasize the word violence. The Black Goat Motorcycle Club doesn't play nice. Its particular brand of action doesn't bother with any fun rushes of adrenaline. It straps you down, electrocutes you with fear, hits you with brutal gut punches, and then pisses on you while you're down for the count. It's an absolute murder orgy. And I'm not even being metaphorical when I say that. To paraphrase Stan Lee, he once made an interesting distinction between action and violence. Action is that exhilarating feeling of jumping out of an airplane with a skydiving suit. It's that excitement you feel when dodging bullets at superhuman speeds. It's a fun adventure. Violence, on the other hand, is defined by how it makes us recoil back in disgust. That must have hurt. Eesh, that's nasty. I'd argue that Jason Murphy is most talented with the latter. He shows his writing strengths the most during the many visceral moments of agony in this book, while at the same time keeping a form of balance so it doesn't just turn into some mindless torture porn. I'd say the main thing that helps with this are the characters. The threat is constant and in your face with its gore, but the reactions of our heroes are a balanced mix of emotions, from fear and confusion that sends them running, to moments of macho badassery that lets them speed into the jaws of madness and fight back. If you enjoy the grindhouse genre, then I'd compare it to that feeling that those kinds of movies can inspire. If there's just one downside to this book, it's that one thing that a lot of horror stories have in common: characters with moments of incredible stupidity. Now, we see plenty of characters walk into danger in this book, with little precaution, but emotions are running high, so this is perfectly excusable. But there's just one character whose stupidity stood out more than the rest, not simply because he made rash decisions, but because the setting he's in could have used more fleshing out. What do I mean by that? Here's Special Agent Castle, a man on the hunt for the paranormal and responsible for leading the Black Goats to this Arizona hospital in the first place. He bit off more than he could chew, now he's outnumbered and outgunned. That's fair enough. But he's supposed to be part of this secret organization, yet you never get the impression that he's been trained to handle any kind of emergency, much less equipped to defend himself against the paranormal. And whenever he comes close to give any new information that might help the other characters, he does the classic move of calling it classified. I wouldn't have minded seeing Agent Castle divulge more details about his secret organization, because without those details you get the impression that not enough world building is at play, which in turn affects how the character would normally act. With more world building, Agent Castle might have been portrayed as at least a semi-competent person who has standard procedures and tools to fall back on, but because we learn so little, he instead comes off as this bumbling buffoon that's in over his head. "Stand back, foul beasts! I have a gun!"
Is it even loaded?
Of course it is!
You mean with silver bullets?
Overall though, if you enjoy monstrous action horror that doesn't hold back on its punches, coupled with plenty of twists and turns that I haven't even mentioned here, then I'd say you can't go wrong with the Black Goat Motorcycle Club. And that about does it for this review. And always remember, intelligence is sexy. So be the sexy you. Read a book.
No, what are you doing? I can see my ribs. No.